I want to ask you something before I get into anything today. And I want you to actually think about it. When was the last time that your son looked at you like you were his whole world? I honestly remember that feeling. I remember when my son TJ, when he was 2 years old, when he was 3 years old, he was 4 years old, and I was everything to him. It was always, Dad, come play. Dad, watch this. Dad, help me. Dad. I honestly believe I was his hero. I was his best friend. I was the most important person in his world. And then in 2022, I left for work. And somewhere over the last 4 years, that changed. And I don't know if I'll ever fully get that back. I've never said this out loud and publicly before, but that's where we're starting at today. Because I honestly think that there's a lot of people watching this right now who are carrying something very similar. And they've never heard another man say it out loud either. So today, I'm just gonna tell you my truth. So let me give you some context. In 2022, I made a decision to travel for work. I went to Odessa, Texas first. I was there for 2 years, then Memphis, and it's been 2 years here so far. And I want to be clear about why I made that decision. Because honestly, it wasn't about status. It wasn't about some lifestyle that I saw online. It wasn't about chasing that. I was trying to create stability for my family. I was trying to build something the right way. And I was honestly just trying to provide. And I think most people who are in this situation, most people who are watching from a hotel room or an apartment far from home, they left for the same reason. And that's because they honestly love their family. Not in spite of that, but because of it. And I still believe that it was actually the right decision. But what I didn't understand when I made it was what it was actually going to cost me. Not financially, but emotionally. Nobody prepares you for that part. Nobody sits you down and says, hey, you're gonna miss ordinary moments and you're never gonna get them back. You're gonna watch your family's life happen through a phone screen. You're gonna go from living with your family to visiting them. Nobody tells you that. You just end up finding it out. You know, the hardest part of all of this, it isn't the loneliness. It isn't the missed birthdays. It isn't even the mere struggles, and I'm gonna get to that at some point. The hardest part for me, it's actually my son TJ. And I'm gonna try to get through this, but I'm gonna be honest with you. This is the part that still gets to me. Because I remember who we were. When TJ was 2, when he was 3, 4 years old, I can tell you that little boy, he was at my hip every single second. Like he was a true daddy's boy. Everything was based on dad. It was always, Dad, come play with me. Dad, watch this. Dad, help me. Dad, I need you. Dad, I want to go to work with you. I can honestly say I was his whole world. And that feeling right there of being somebody's whole world, I don't have words for that. I don't know how else to feel outside of that. That feeling, that's a different feeling. Then 2022 came. And I remember the Sundays, specifically the Sundays, because I remember sitting in church knowing I had to leave during service, knowing I had to go catch a plane, knowing I was about to be hundreds of miles away again. And I remember looking down at TJ and him breaking down, not just crying, but honestly breaking down, begging me not to go, asking me when was I coming back. And I remember trying to hold it together for him. I was just trying to be an adult. I was really trying to be strong for him. But inside, it was destroying me. I can still see the look on his face. Even right now, I can see it. That look of just pure sadness, pure pain. His dad was leaving and he didn't understand why. And here's the part I haven't said publicly before. It's 2026 now. TJ, he's 8. He's older. He's growing up. He's becoming his own person. And that little boy who used to cry when I left, sometimes now, I wonder if he even misses me when I go. I feel like sometimes he'd rather play a video game than spend time with me. I feel like there are moments where he doesn't fully know who I am anymore. And I know that might sound like I'm being too hard on myself, and maybe I am, but distance, it honestly changes relationships. Even the ones that you don't do anything, you don't even do anything wrong, or those ones that you would do anything to protect. And one of the heaviest things I carry is the feeling that I miss the years that mattered the most. Not just to me, but to him. And it's not because I stopped loving him. And it's not because he stopped loving me. But it's because I wasn't there. And you can't get those years back. I've had to sit with that. And some days, I'll be honest, it's harder to sit with that than others. Some days it's the worst pain ever. I want to continue talking about something that I've never really talked about publicly, because I think a lot of people in my situation, they've experienced this in the past, or either they're experiencing it currently, but nobody honestly really says this out loud. There have been multiple weekends, and I'm talking about constant weekends, where I came home on a Friday afternoon and I didn't get off the couch until Sunday. And it's not because I was lazy. It's not because I didn't have goals, or I didn't want to create content, or I didn't want to accomplish things. But it's because emotionally, I was just empty. Like, I was honestly completely drained. I would walk through the door Friday and just sit down on the couch. And then the whole weekend would go by. I wouldn't create content. I wouldn't work on anything. I wouldn't open up my laptop. I wouldn't do anything. I'd just sit there and I'd miss my wife. I'd be missing my kids. I'd be missing TJ. I'd be wondering what they're doing. Wondering, what am I missing now? And then Sunday would come and I'd have to force myself to get up and meal prep for next week. And I'd start getting ready to do it all over again. I've honestly had multiple people asking me on social media, why don't I post constantly? That's why. That reason right there, that's the reason why. Because there are seasons where the weight of this, where the weight of life, it just takes everything you have. And there's nothing left. And I think that's important to say out loud, because if you've had those weekends, if you've sat in a hotel room or in an empty apartment and just felt completely hollow, That doesn't mean that you're weak. That just makes you human. And you're not the only one. So you're really not alone. There was this season, and I don't like to talk about this, but there was this season where I genuinely believed that my marriage was over. Like, not that it was struggling, but it was over. Between the distance, the pressure, the loneliness on both sides, the constant stress of trying to hold everything together from hundreds of miles away, it takes a toll. And it just doesn't take a toll on you. It takes a toll on your spouse. It takes a toll on your kids. It takes a toll on everyone that's connected to you. And I remember reaching a point where I was so emotionally exhausted that I just stopped fighting. And it wasn't that I didn't love my wife. It wasn't because I wanted to walk away. But it's because I had nothing left to fight with. And I remember telling myself, if this marriage ends, I'll just pour everything that I have left into being the best father I can be. I had honestly already accepted it. I had already started preparing my mind for the reality. And looking back at that moment, that scares me. Because that's how far gone I was emotionally. That's how disconnected the distance had made me. And I don't say that to be dramatic. I say it because I think there are multiple men, there are constantly men that are watching this right now who are in the same place, who've had the same thought. And they felt like they couldn't say it to anybody. But I'll tell you this. I'm going to say it for you. I'm going to say it for us. Because it has to be said. On top of all of that, there's other stuff that nobody really talks about. And that's the guilt. And guilt, it's different from loneliness. The loneliness is about you. But the guilt, it's about them. Because you start wondering and your mind starts running. Is my family paying a price for the decisions that I made trying to help them? I remember when my wife started keeping a baseball bat next to the bed because I wasn't there. And eventually she asked me to get her a firearm. She wanted to go through training, learn how to shoot. She wanted to learn how to protect herself and the kids because I wasn't there. And sitting hundreds of miles away, knowing your wife doesn't feel safe, knowing your kids are growing up without you in the house, knowing that those moments are happening that you're never going to get back, that weight follows you everywhere. It's in the back of your mind at work. It's there when you're trying to sleep. It's there on the holidays. I've missed almost everything. I've missed almost every birthday for the last 4 years. I've missed anniversaries. I've missed Mother's Day. Father's Day, I've did it alone. I've spent my own birthday alone. And after a while, those days, they stop feeling like anything special. They just become another day. Because honestly, you're alone. And the people who you want to celebrate it with, they're not there. They're somewhere else. They're home. And you're away from them. And here's this question that kept coming back to me. Especially on those couch weekends. On those holidays that I was alone. In those moments where I felt that I was the most disconnected from my family. Was it worth it? Was the money worth it? Were the promotions worth it? Were the opportunities worth it? Was all of this, was it worth missing the last 4 years of life? And I'll be honest with you, I don't have a clean answer to that question because I'm still living in it. I'm still trying to figure out if the trade was the right one. And I think the fact that I can still ask myself that, it means the answer isn't simple. Because honestly, I know I was trying to do the right thing. I know I was trying to provide. I know my intentions were good. I know they were pure. But intentions don't give you back the years. They don't give you back the moments. They don't put you back in a room when your son needed you the most. And I think if you've ever made sacrifices for your family, and I'm talking about real sacrifices, you've asked yourself the same question. And you probably felt guilty for asking it. Like asking means you're ungrateful or maybe selfish. But you're not. It means that you're just paying a real price. And you know you are. I can say this. I don't have this all figured out. I want to be clear about that. I'm not on the other side of this looking back. I am still in this. Like I'm still in the fire. But here's what I'm learning. Sacrifice without a purpose, it eventually turns into resentment. If you're paying a price, but you don't know what you're paying it for, eventually you'll start to hate the price. So you have to know your why. And it has to be bigger than just money. I'm also learning that providing, it isn't just financial. And honestly, I knew that in theory, but I'm feeling it now in a way that I didn't before. Your family honestly needs your paycheck, but they also need you present. They need you emotionally available. They need to feel like you're still connected to them even when you're not in the same room. And that takes work. And I'm talking about real intentional work. Phone calls that aren't just check-ins. Conversations that go deeper than the logistics. Showing up emotionally even when you can't show up physically. I'm still learning how to do that. And some days, like I said, are better than others. But what I can tell you is, I'm learning. So if you're watching this from a hotel room, a truck stop, an oil field, a job site, or maybe you're watching it from an apartment somewhere that's far away from the people you love, I honestly want to talk to you. I want to talk directly to you for a second because I know what that moment feels like. I know what that room feels like. I know what the quietness, what it feels like when the workday is done and there's nobody else there. I know what it feels like to FaceTime your kids and then sit in silence after you hang up. I know what it feels like to carry all of this and not have anywhere to put it. And I want you to hear me when I say this. You're not weak because you're struggling. You're not weak because some nights are harder than others. You're not weak because you actually miss your wife. You're not weak because you miss your kids. You're not weak because you've cried in a car or a hotel room or your apartment where nobody could see you. That's not weakness. That's actually love. And carrying that kind of love over that kind of distance, it actually takes more strength than most people will ever understand. So I want you to keep going. Not because it's easy, but because the people waiting for you at the home or at the end of the tunnel, they're worth it. And don't lose yourself completely in this sacrifice, because they don't just need what you provide. They actually need you. They need you present. They need you grounded. They need you still there. I'm still fighting for that balance. And if you are too, you're not alone. I gotta remind you that you're not alone, and you never were. There are multiple of us going through this. So you're not alone, bro. If any of this hit home for you, I want you to drop the word home in the comments. And if you're a father or a husband and you're making sacrifices for the people you love, I genuinely want to hear your story, because I think there's a lot more people carrying this weight in silence than anybody actually realizes. And maybe, just maybe, today changes that. Later.